West, where Brandon Aydlett is standing by. Good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning?
All right for the first day of school. Okay. Learning about the Delta variant, we're okay.
Yeah, we had quite a rainy morning to the start for the day, and some heavy showers moved through from Harmon area northward. But now we're starting to see that break up. So let me switch you around real quick, and I'll show you some of the latest satellite and radar, just to see what's going on across the region. So across the Marianas, those showers are definitely pushing off to the west. But as you can see, off to the west is a whole lot of showers and thunderstorms out there, quite a bit of lightning indications. And so it's fortunate that stuff has all moved west of us. Otherwise, we'd be having quite a different morning right now. And like I'd mentioned a few days ago, this is all courtesy of a combination of a surface trough pushing through and an upper level feature just to the north that is helping to instill that rising motion in the atmosphere. As we go to the satellite imagery, you can see just all of that convection blossoming up to the west of us. And but we're going to see some clearing trends today, and so that will help kind of calm things down across the region. However, we are watching well to the east, just to the northeast of the Marshall Islands. There is a tropical depression, number 16W. This was the one that I kind of alluded to back on Monday, circulation on the other side of the international date line. That the Central Pacific Hurricane Center and Joint Typhoon Warning Center were watching for some signs of at least a minor development. And indeed, that did come to pass. So now we're looking at a tropical depression that has been in existence for about 24, 30 hours now. And so let's go ahead to the slides, and I'll go ahead and give you a top-down of what all has happened. Initially, we were looking at only a tropical depression to talk about. But overnight, we did have a couple of earthquakes. There was one to the northeast of the Marianas, and then there was a more substantial earthquake near Mindanao, Philippines. That was a 7.1 earthquake. And so you can see in the headlines, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has given the all clear for the region. There is and was no tsunami threat with that 7.1 earthquake. So that is good. Looking at some of the buoy data across around the eastern Philippines, the Tsunami Warning Center did state that there was about maybe a tenth to 2/10 of a foot of a tsunami detected at one of the buoys. Such a tsunami would probably not be visible to the naked eye, but the buoys are very sensitive and can resolve these little disturbances. Now, as we go into the Tropical Depression 16, this system is still to the northeast of the Marshall Islands. It is moving due west, and we are looking at the computer model suggesting that some form of Depression 16 will affect the Marianas early, the first half of next week, around Tuesday, and I would say give or take about a day, because this system could move a little faster, could move a little slower, but all the trends maintain a fairly weak system. For Guam and the CNMI, we're looking at showers and thunderstorms decreasing today, but we're going to see kind of two punches of showers and thunderstorms. The first punch comes in on Sunday, and the second one Tuesday. But generally, seas will stay benign into the weekend, and then we're going to start seeing an increase in conditions. For Micronesia, we're watching 16W, but all trends keep 16W to the north roughly along 12 to 13 degrees latitude, passing north of all islands and atolls, and so minor, no direct effects, but maybe some changes in the winds. If you go to our webpage, weather.gov/GUM, you'll see just below the forecast map, there is a link in a pink banner. That is where you can click for information on 16W. So let's go to the next slide. And so once again, just to recap, the earthquake, that was in the southern Philippines, 7.1 early this morning, and we are in the all clear. The Tsunami Warning Center has finished issuing bulletins on this earthquake and potential tsunami event. So next slide, please. We're looking at satellite-based ocean surface winds here. This is what we call scatterometer data. This is very useful for us in the meteorology world, especially when the data sparse open Pacific Ocean. Now, you can see across the Guam and CNMI, there's a little surface trough to the east of us overnight. That's what gave us a bump up in showers. And then over near Kwajalein, there's there's another surface trough and a couple of little circulations. There's a small uptick in winds. Those green wind barbs indicate winds of 15 and 20 knots. That's going to be our system that comes through on Sunday, giving us slightly stronger winds and uptick in showers. But the more substantial weather maker is that tropical depression 16W, still to the northeast of the Marshall Islands. Now, this system, worth noting, is it is fairly lopsided. On the north side of the system, you can see 25 to 35 mile per hour winds. Those are the ones indicated in yellow, orange, and red. But on the south side of the circulation center, the center of circulation is that red X. X marks the spot. South of the center, winds are much weaker. They're out of the west, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And so that is what should be passing over the northern atolls of the Marshall Islands from Wooderick, Rongelat, Bikini, and Inuitak. So they're going to see winds come around, and we're reaching out to the Madra Weather Office, and they are communicating with the folks in the northern atolls just to tell them to keep a heads up, and keep alert for this situation, any changing conditions. But ultimately, this system is expected to move westward with little impacts across the Marshall Islands. And so let's look at the latest forecast track. This is Advisory 6 from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. This came out at 7 a.m. this morning. And typically, this map looks very boring. Typically, when we have a tropical cyclone in the region, especially those with tropical storm force winds exceeding 39 miles per hour, you start seeing some shading, some blues and yellows and reds indicating those stronger winds. This storm track has nothing. It is only a tropical depression. We were seeing the possibility of it becoming a tropical storm today before weakening back into a depression. But right now, all indications are this system will stay as a tropical depression with winds of 35 miles per hour or less as it continues westward. So let's zoom out to the next page, and you'll see the air cone. Still a westward motion. It is unsettling to most people to see a track head straight to the Marianas. That is because we have seen many storms come westward toward the Marianas and bringing destructive conditions. Fortunately, in this case, that does not look to be the case. And as we go to the next one, you see the little green shadings. I'm just trying to highlight those winds that are showing 30 mile per hour winds in the long term. So that is a current expectation. The model trends have maintained such a case for this system. So while we're seeing this track heading due west toward the Marianas, the fortunate side is it is generally a weak system. So for the week ahead, how are we looking? Conditions will start clearing up for this afternoon, and then we're going to see isolated thunderstorms continue for the next couple of days. By Sunday, we're going to see another uptick in rainfall as that first system that's currently over Kwajalein and Koshrai approaches the Marianas. And then toward Tuesday, that's the current timeline of showers and winds picking up for the Marianas. Sea conditions are going to be relatively quiet, generally east swell or a mixture of east swell and wind waves. Quiet conditions on the seas, but by the late weekend, we're going to start seeing conditions start to increase as winds increase, and also that easterly swell picks up. So the next slide, just to recap a few things. Like I said, it is unsettling to see a tropical cyclone track that is headed straight for the Marianas, but all current guidance keeps 16W a weak system. That has been the case since before 16W was warned on by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. We expected to see the strongest intensity around today, tomorrow, and then maintains a fairly weak tropical depression. But nonetheless, it is something that we should all be closely watching for any changes. Sometimes changes do happen. The models may not quite have the best grasp on these situations, especially if upper level conditions become more favorable for intensification. So we're going to be watching this very closely. We'll be issuing updated advisories and forecast tracks every 6 hours. They will be on our webpage by 2 and 8 p.m. and a.m. And so everybody should be keeping a close eye on this. Next slide. What can you do to stay prepared for natural hazards? Tonight just shows you what hazards that we have to deal with all the time. The Civil Defense Homeland Security of Guam, they have a lot of URLs that are great for supplies and suggestions how to be prepared for any natural disaster. So I highly recommend you visit their page and find them on Facebook as well. And then ultimately, for all the latest forecasts, visit our webpage at weather.gov/gum or find us on Facebook at NWS Guam for all the latest information. And of course, our webpage is where we're going to have all forecasts updated every 12 hours and every advisory and forecast track every 6 hours. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a message on Facebook. And for other recordings of our forecast, dial 211. And with that, I'll turn it over back to you.
Thanks a lot, Brandon, for being accessible and jumping on with the latest. I know when people saw that graphic floating all around WhatsApp, of course we got it, and everybody's like, "What's going on? What's going on?"
Oh my God, the armchair weathermen were out.
Right.
We got some people that work at our company was like, "Is the rapture coming?"
But I like it the way you explain it. Yeah, you know, it's very simple and easy to understand, and so thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Brandon. Be safe.
You too.
Let's continue with our newscast here. Again, brought to you by Pacific Point, Sabrina Salas Mantanani.
And here is your news in tomorrow with Ken Conception.